How far are you willing to go for someone you love, someone you care for, and someone you cherish? What are you willing to do for the sake of achieving your love, and who are you willing to sacrifice to achieve this? In this video series, I'll be talking about each individual character and their impact on the story of Higurashi Silent Hill F. I'm going to be going through major spoilers of the game and all of the endings. Please proceed with caution. Out of all the characters in Silent Hill F, Rinko and Nishida were the character that was most memorable on my first playthrough, for reasons I didn't quite understand until getting all endings of the game. Rinko is a character you see very early on in Silent Hill F. After Hineko and Shu meet up at the sweet shop, running towards Shu, she greets him kindly and then notices Hineko. This cutscene alone sparked my curiosity behind the character. The facial expressions are done very well, and I initially thought that Rinko and Shu were dating. However, this isn't the case. It's shown in Hineko's notes about Rinko, he simply likes Shu a lot, but has yet to get the courage to confess her feelings. When we first meet Rinko, as said before, she greets Shu kindly and gives Hineko a very odd welcome.
ひなこもいたんだ。リンコ。
The facial expression is one of pure disgust. The words, "Why is she here?" plastered all over her face. She questions Hineko about what they are talking about, which Hineko and Shu don't give a proper answer to, souring the mood. Luckily, Satoko arrives and lightens the mood. This is the only other time we see her smile, and after that, the best friend Rinko appears, laughing and joking with Hineko as if they are truly best friends. Hineko's notes are very interesting when it comes to the storytelling of the game. They give us a different viewpoint of things, especially about Rinko. Rinko and Hineko are best friends. Well, they appear as best friends. Hineko truly does value her, but the same cannot be said for Rinko. She only values one thing, and that's Shu. Her story isn't a simple obsession, it's an obsession that runs so deep it turns into hysteria, something the fog of Silent Hill F brings into light for Hineko. The childhood best friend Rinko and the obsessive Rinko are two different people. Similarly, we have the Hineko that wants to make the choice to find happiness her own way, and the Hineko that follows the older traditions and let others dictate her happiness. Silent Hill F plays into this pretty much with every character in the game. This makes every character have major flaws, even if they are likable. Something very noticeable with Shu. Unfortunately for Rinko, there are only a few notes that offer any more proof of the kind and caring Rinko, as after this conversation, the fog appears and they all run away, getting separated. From Hineko's notes, it's revealed that Rinko is the type of person to put her mind into something and won't budge until she achieves it, previously being clothes, fashion, and other womanly pursuits. However, Hineko likely didn't notice that she moved on to something else, or rather, someone else, with that being Shu. Shu is one of her childhood best friends, who she had been having a crush on for a while. However, Shu and Hineko are also very close, and would be together all the time, playing their favourite role-playing game, Space Wars. It is known by Hineko that Rinko does like Shu. Rinko even confesses to Hineko about this, something I find odd when experiencing the rest of the game, but I'll get back to this later. Rinko is the type of person to stick to something that she wants to pursue, with Hineko even noticing that it's very hard to waive her convictions or she sets her sights onto something. This causes fights between the best friend. Although Rinko and Hineko would make up, the thought of another friendship-ending fight still looms around the corner. Still, their relationships are realistic and satisfying to learn about. Friends argue and friends fight, but true friendship is something that's able to last through that. Yet this friendship seems to only continue for Riko's gain, and would have abandoned Hineko if Shu and her were as close as they currently are. Rinko obviously likes Shu, however Shu and Hineko are together all the time, something that the story highlights as being very odd at the time in 1960 Japan. Young people mixing with the opposite gender was looked down upon. Rinko would even ask Hineko if Shu and her were dating, and would even start rumors behind her back, something that was initially told to us via Hineko's notes. But as we soon see, this behind the back gossip is way more deprived than Hineko would have expected. The gossip started around middle school. Rinko would make origami papers and would write down her hatred on it and hide it around the school. It's from these we learn about how Rinko doesn't only despise Hineko for being Shu's friend, but the fact that she acts like she doesn't want to be a girl. Something as stated before was looked down upon, but it's also the fact that Rinko calls Hineko cuter than everyone else. This, along with the fact that she doesn't act like a girl during 1960 Japan, makes her sick to the stomach. But you may find this odd. A letter from Rinko to Hineko shows that Rinko showed care to Hineko for the rumors circulating around Hineko's behavior and how unladylike she was. Rinko tells Hineko that she can be herself, contradicting everything that's said beforehand. This is just another showcase of the difference between the two Rinkos. Rinko's diary also explains how Rinko truly was. She was someone who was pretending to be a good person, to be perfect, to be prideful. She believed this so much that she started to truly believe this fabricated narrative. However, she realized that she was just looking down on everyone in order to falsely raise herself up. She even started to wonder if everyone else foresaw her act. This turned into paranoia and straight up blaming Hineko. Although those last pages were written with unfettered hatred, so her emotional ramblings can't be trusted. Hineko for her is a scapegoat to vent her anger towards. With this, I want to bring up the flashcards. These cards don't have an author, but it's safe to assume this is from Rinko, as the other flashcards appear and only Rinko has been the author on those. Within the flashcard, it explains a story of the past. Rinko actually saved Hineko from falling into the waterway, something she seemed to regret, even saying that it happens all the time, a kid falling into the waterway. Another article was informed about the waterway incident, talking about another girl who fell in and died. But at the same time, the name was replaced with cutouts of Hineko's name, nothing used to showcase bullying, showing how much she really wanted Hineko to die. One of the biggest factors to the relationship Rinko has with Shu and Hineko is the game the duo played, Space Wars. This game was surprisingly important to the story of Silent Hill F. This was a game they played as children and continued as they grew up. It was a game where Shu and Hineko would roleplay as space heroes defeating evil galactic threats. Other people used to join in this game too, but soon left, only leaving the duo the last remaining people to play the game. Rinko felt left out whenever the duo played the game. She still started to see this as Hineko selfishly sticking to Shu and trying to take him from her. With all this said, we can clearly see how two-faced Rinko was. Despite all the issues she had with Hineko, she would never ever say it to her. She would hide notes around the school and even try to change her handwriting to not get caught for these bullying notes. She even did this with Shu. She would never confess to Shu, even when Hineko told her that Shu and her were not dating. Rinko simply didn't talk to Hineko about this issue, rather she wished death upon her for her to disappear. And she would surprisingly get that wish, but the consequences for this wish would not be what she expected. Hineko would go missing and later be presumed dead and even have a funeral made for her. Everything Rinko wanted. She was now all alone, but she was still playing Space Wars, just by himself, still mourning his true love, Hineko. During the game, the story actually showcases conversations that they likely had during this unfortunate event.
やめてくれ。そんな話、今はしたくない。
やめないよ。シュウ君がしっかりと現実を見るまでやめない。
だからやめてくれ。俺は。
なら言ってあげる。ひなこはね、死んだんだよ。ひなこは向こうの世界で楽しくやっているんだから。
相棒、遅かったな。さあ、行こうぜ。
Originally, on the first playthrough, it's seen as Rinko simply trying to gaslight and manipulate Shu, but with context of all playthroughs, we can now see what this actually means. All of these are efforts for Rinko to help Shu out of his trauma and to be free from Hineko, something Shu cannot put up with. I find this a really cool foreshadowing by Ryokishi7 as one of my favourite parts of the game. When Rinko tells Shu that Hineko is dead, we literally believe that Rinko is simply gaslighting Shu and hate Rinko even more, but we see her just trying to help Shu cope with the death of his late friend. But is this the Rinko who was truly the best friends of Hineko, or the obsessive Rinko who was trying to find a spark in Shu all these years ago? Continuing back on the game, Rinko is disappointed to see that Hineko managed to survive, still metaphorically clinging to Shu. Rinko is disappointed to see that Hineko managed to survive the fog encounter, still metaphorically clinging to Shu. So she decides to physically cling to him instead, as if to get a reaction out of Hineko. Throughout the game's story, we see how passive-aggressive she is towards Shu, trying to find ways to break their relationship. They let Hineko rest, and likely due to Rinko manipulation, Shu and Rinko would head up to Shu's house, and this would be the last time we see them in the story alive. If the death of Shu and Satoko and Hineko are all correct, Shu would later hang himself due to the guilt he felt for either the wedding massacre or the disappearance of Hineko. Rinko was apparently burned to death, however I do not currently know why this could have happened. My only theory is that this happened during the wedding massacre, but I'll cover that in Hineko's video, so make sure to subscribe. Her boss fight is basically an amalgamation of her hatred and everything we have covered. She takes the form of the head priest but scorched, her face completely burnt off. She's able to summon dull mimics of herself to attack Hineko, likely representing the rumors she spread about Hineko. Another attack she can do is throw balls of fire that she gets from inside her chest, likely throwing out her anger her literal anger towards Hineko. Before we move on, I want to talk about why Rinko blames Hineko throughout the entire sequence of the Dark World. From the notes we can clearly see that due to the disappearance of Hineko, Shu wasn't able to properly move on. This led to Rinko blaming Hineko for essentially being missing and not being able to finish off the Space Wars game with him and giving him a proper farewell. Something unrealistic to ever happen. But as Rinko is blinded by hatred, she blames this all on Hineko. This is the reason why she blames Hineko for hurting Shu and being a traitor, as she betrayed Shu, well, according to her. The last thing I want to mention is her room. Her room is an average room littered with dolls and other stuff a teenager would have. Within the Dark World, we see another version of this room, a room filled with drawings of Shu plastered everywhere. Multiple different drawings. This scene alone made me want to make a video about Rinko. It showcases how her love for Shu wasn't healthy, but an obsession. If you walk around to the bedside, you're able to see more papers of drawings, but this time of Hineko, face scratched out, a ruined image of her best friend. One time we see this is during the school. On a board, we see under an umbrella, Rinko and Shu's name. Next to that is Sakuko, whose name is just simply erased, and next to that is Hineko's name, scratched out with red marker. Rinko is a character that unfortunately we see the worst side of. Unlike other characters, she rarely has the time to become the best friend Rinko we see briefly at the start of the game, making her seem simply like the bad friend character. But I believe she's so much more than that. She's someone who unfortunately sat outside on someone who didn't see her the same way, and due to the type of person she is, she simply couldn't let go. I said earlier, she's prideful, and she's someone who once has her eyes set on something will not budge. Out of all the characters, she had the most of the bad deeds shown to us on screen and can easily become a player's most hated character. I don't blame them. After all, she's a very bad friend, and the whole friendship group lacks communication skills. But she's a human and a very good portrayal of an obsessive person who's trying to put on a fake act, which is why I honestly really like Rinko as a character despite everything she has done. And maybe in another life she'll finally get the person she's looking for. Well, maybe. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. The next video likely gonna be of Takayuki or Fox Mask, because I think I've been seeing a bit too much discourse about people just labeling him a groomer and not actually understanding the character that well. And I do believe he's truly misunderstood. So wait for that clickbait title and thumbnail to come out too. So thank you for watching the video, and more videos may come out in the foreseeable future. And bye.